Hey, we're here at Liam Hoffman's shop. Liam Hoffman is a friend of mine. He is a master blacksmith and he makes some of the dopest axes ever. He makes bad axes. They're good axes.
They're bad axes.
They're bad,
but they're not bad
axes.
axes.
Okay, I'll let you explain.
Not a master blacksmith. And,
I think you are. You're on your way. Every master blacksmith says that they're not one. I get it.
I mean, that's flattering, but anyways, so let me take you through my shop. Like Jason said, we pretty much only make axes, but we make knives and hammers too and other tools, and we do everything here in-house from forging to the handle to the sheath. Right now, this room unfortunately is torn apart because earlier this morning we cut out this giant hole for a foundation for a power hammer, so everything is like moved in a spot that's not supposed to be in.
You didn't find anything good in there?
I found a Pabst Blue Ribbon can from the 60s.
Really?
Yeah. So we do all the forging in here with hydraulic presses, mechanical presses, and power hammers. And we also do some tumbling and heat treating in this room, and that's all back in that pile of machines.
That finish looks awesome. How long have you been doing that finish now? Tumbled finish.
4 or 5 months.
Nice.
We just dump like 40 to 60 in at a time, and then 30 minutes later they just pop out.
Nice.
Tumbles them. So I'll take you guys through the grinding room, machine room back here.
Stamp feed.
I think you spelled that name.
Huh?
Nothing.
Attack dog, not attacking. Very good.
Oh boy, Dad. Hi, puppy. Hey, what you doing? You're so big now. Your ears are still floppy.
So anyways, after they get forged and normalized, then we rough grind them, which is actually, we are doing that today to these axes. They're just not quite done yet. We start on this grinder, which is what we call our mega grinder.
Can we have any interesting stories about mishaps with this? You have
No.
a quick one?
No story, no mishaps.
What about when you screw up and you get the belt on wrong?
Well, I did, yeah, the first time I tried to put a belt on this, I just didn't have it tracking right, and the belt just went whoop with it running, and it just shredded the belt in half, and there was just like stuff flying everywhere.
And this is like a $8 belt, and this is like a $160 belt.
Yeah. This belt is 3 by 12 feet.
Looks like it's about a 12 grit.
24 grit belt.
24 grit.
I'll turn it on. It should be on.
These are gorgeous. What do you call this axe?
These are, it's a mini. It goes on a 12-inch handle. It's the smallest one that we make. These are ready to be heat treated, and then they go in the tumbler after they are heat treated.
Can you talk for a second about how, to me, you took some classic concepts and hatchets and you've added some really nice flow to them. Mm-hmm. Is that, I mean, that's accurate. Whether you believe it or not, they look nice. They have a very nice
nothing
aesthetic.
that I do is super intentional. I just make it what
You make it look like it's, well, it's like this.
Like.
I feel like when you're doing something enough and you're making something functional and you know it, there's a way, but then you can just add a subtlety to it, which by my eye, I notice that you do, and you know, so there's a nice subtlety, there's a nice effect, and the axe is functional, but it's also beautiful looking.
Yeah, I have an eye for lines and stuff, but as far as like the functionality goes, something on our axe heads that is pretty prominent is the width of the eye and the big lugs on them for the size of the axe. Mm-hmm. Like on our big 4.5 pound axe, the eye is like, with the lugs is like that wide, which increases the surface area on the handle, which means it stays on longer. And all of the poles on every axe that we make is hardened the same way that forging hammer is. So you could smack this against steel, driving in steel wedges or stakes or whatever you want. We did a video where we forged an axe using dulled axes as sledgehammers to demonstrate how it works. So, and then these smaller grinders for more finish work.
Wow, we had a friend that used to make grinders like that. I wonder what happened to him.
Is that Wilmot, that Chris Wilmot guy?
Yeah, Chris Wilmot. I was hoping to get myself a new one. I have so many janky parts on mine. So he's like, how often do you use your axe? I'm like, well, not my axe, my grinder, like 60 or 70 hours a week probably. So I always say that's the best one there is, but it's just my opinion.
How much is he paying you to say that?
Dude, stupid money. How do you think we had this film here?
Then down here, we really don't use these machines at all for axe making, or even not a whole lot for knife making. All these machines are used to repair our machines and to make tooling for our forging machines. So all of the tooling for our presses and power hammers and stuff is made here, and if a part breaks on one of our machines, then we just make a new part, because a lot of these companies or these machines are really old and out of business, and you can't, unless you hired a custom job shop, and it'd be pricey. So
dude, this is the biggest chihuahua I have ever seen.
Yeah. So we got surface grinders, plenty of drill press stuff. And then my mill and my lathe are both small tool room type machines for smaller, more delicate type work. And this is the break room. We don't even use those couches anymore because they're so disgusting from the dog. That's just his domain.
Sit, give me that. Sit. Sit. Go, Fluffy.
This area is the leatherworking area. We do all the sheaths here too, and of the other high-end axes, really no one sells you the axe with a sheath that's worth anything, and we try to make the sheaths just as nice as the rest of the axe. Let me see if I can find one that is finished to show you an example. This sheath is not done, it doesn't have the snap on it yet, but this is a nearly finished leather sheath that would come on the axe. So it's very solid, and we burnish it nicely. And most of the axe sheaths that come even on a Gransfors Brooks axe, which is considered like the high-end production axe, it's just like two pieces of shoe leather riveted together. Yeah. And that's it.
I think and here's another, for me, just thinking out loud, and you tell me if I'm wrong. I have been a dealer for those Gransfors Brooks axes, and I like them. I just think that we have really hard wood in America.
Yeah.
And I think those axes don't necessarily work so wonderfully with the wood that we have here. You know, it's like you're dealing with Scandinavian countries and fir and spruce, and a lot of those are great for that. But when you get into some of the things we have here, ash and elm and all kind of ironwood, you know, we have all kind of stuff that if the axe isn't made and hardened and tempered properly, chipping will happen.
Yeah, I mean, Gransfors Brook is a good axe. It's also a lot less expensive than mine is, sure. So you can't really compare them apples to apples. No. But basically, you know, as far as like steel selection goes, Gransfors uses 1040 or 1045 equivalent. I've seen it. They go through, they heat up the bit in an induction forge and it just dunks in water. It's 1045. We use 4140, which has the same amount of carbon as 1045, but it's got chromium and molybdenum in it, making it more through hardening. It's got a higher Rockwell, and it's a whole lot tougher.
Yep.
So
have you ever said molybdenum 3 times?
Molybdenum. So it's like literally every single small aspect of it, we just do a step or 2 steps or 5 steps higher. Yeah. But it's also more expensive, so yep. It's difficult to compare it like that.
Well, you can't compare it. I would just say there is not a comparison. This is a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, they make as many axes in a week as we probably, or a month, than we make in a year.
Yeah, that's right.
But we are starting to use this clicker press, which will stamp out the whole sheath pattern.
Can we put that pumpkin in that clicker press?
No.
Okay. I just thought I'd check.
No. But we still, for right now, most of our sheaths are still cut with a razor blade X-Acto knife. We're starting to try and transition over to the clicker press, but in order to do that, our axe blades all have to be the exact same shape for the first 3 inches or so, and it's really hard for us to do that and be hand making the product. So like some of the axes that are easier to do that, we've done, and we're using the clicker press to do templates. So that's something that we're working towards. But all the leather working is done in this room right here for the axes. Here's I guess an axe that's getting a sheath made. I'm not sure.
What do you call that one?
That's our camp axe. 2 1/4 pound camp axe.
Very nice. And that kitchen is gorgeous.
Yes, the fancy kitchen.
You don't have to talk about it. It is beautiful though.
I'll show you guys the wood shop next, where we do the handles. So the way that my shop is built and organized is it's compartmentalized for hot forging work, cold steel work, machining, grinding, and woodworking. It's really important to keep all those things separate, just for convenience and like good work environment, and it's also extremely dangerous to mix those things together. So we've separated out into different rooms. In this room, we just do woodworking. So we've got band saws and more grinders and sanding drums and brush sanders, and we fit the eyes on the handles with draw knives using these vices. And once you get it to start fitting, then you come over here to these big arbor presses, and you put the handle in there and you press it down into the axe head a little bit, and then you take it out, see where it's rubbing and where you need to take off more material. Take off the material, and then you keep pressing back and forth till you get it straight on the handle at the right depth, and everything looks good. So this is a 12-ton press, and that's a 6-ton. This is where we fit everything.
Nice.
This is our big centerpiece for the wood shop. It's a 36-inch Moke bandsaw. It's 5-horse direct drive to the bottom wheel, so it's very powerful.
Did you have to rebuild this when you got it?
No, this is this was like new old stock.
Yeah.
This was 3 stories down in a vocational school, and had been sitting in the basement for its life.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it has very little use on it, so it's I'll never see this thing have problems playing. That one's the fortune cookie, and this one's the spaghetti.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You got spaghetti, I got you. This one has almost killed you several times, so.
Yeah, it has actually.
Pretty much. How's this one? Is this better?
This one's way better. It's more simple. It's the same design. Basically, China copied this one. I mean, it's the same, but they just made it more of a gimmick. It doesn't work as well.
Right.
But we use these to rough out the handles. So we take the boards of lumber, and we take the templates that I've made, and we inspect each board and then look for where the best grain is. Then we put the template there, trace it out, cut it on the bandsaw, and then it goes up to the lathe, roughs it out, and then we draw a knife to fit the head, then sand the handle, and do all that stuff. So all the template runs on the top, and then all the others cut below it, and all the templates I've made. Actually, I want to show you some of the templates, because I've started doing them out of solid aluminum.
I saw them on that backwards. That's cool.
Yeah.
So, did you cut them originally with that? From what you want? Did you made those on that too?
No. It won't cut steel or aluminum. These are templates that I handmade from solid blocks of aluminum.
Nice.
Hand ground them and shaped them and did everything. So these are my master templates. That's a 32, 28, and 24 inch handle.
Very nice.
For the lathe. Those are also templates, but they're wooden, and I'm working on replacing everything with aluminum, or there's also this really hard plastic that I'm experimenting with for making templates.
Yeah, that's really cool. A lot of thought. Lots and lots of thought. Lots of experience too. That's another thing that's important to note. Everybody will say, well, how do you do that? How do you do that? It's like a lot of hours in doing it. You know, it takes a lot of time. So
yeah, this
very
guy
cool.
at the drive-thru at McDonald's got my debit card and it said blacksmithing on it. He's like, "Oh, you're a blacksmith. How do you get into that?" I was like, "You just do.
You just do it.
You just start." What do you mean? You just do it.
Do it. That's right. That's how you get in.